$20 per carload. Mufasa starts at $8.45, followed by Twisters at $10.45. Concessions will be available all night, but no outside food and drinks allowed. For more information on this and other stories, visit nwksradio.net.
Rocket 102.5.
Today will be mostly cloudy with highs in the upper 60s to around 70. Light southeasterly winds at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Then tonight we'll see some scattered showers with lighter, less than a quarter-inch rain chances with lows in the lower 50s. For tomorrow, there are good chances for afternoon and evening scattered showers and storms. Severe weather threat will be low north of I-70 and higher south, as well as lighter quarter-inch to half-inch amounts north of I-70 and the higher 3/4 to 1-inch plus amounts to the south. Highs will be in the mid to upper 60s and lows in the lower 50s, and those winds will continue from the southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Friday, storm chances will be mainly west of the St. Francis to Oakley line. High temperature 70 to 75, lows in the mid-50s, and Saturday will be sunny and dry with highs 80 to 85. Sunday we'll have evening storm chances with another system and a high temperature around 85. This is meteorologist Chris Romick in the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
Are pests making your home or business uncomfortable? Call Pest Away in Goodland, Kansas, serving all of Northwest Kansas. They provide top-notch pest control services to keep your space safe and pest-free. From ants to rodents, termites to spiders, our expert team is here to help with effective, safe, and affordable pest control solutions. Don't wait. Call Pest Away today at 785-728-7166 for fast, reliable service. Your home or business deserves the best protection.
Spring is in full swing at Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware. Get your lawn and garden looking their best with Ultimate Fertilizer and gear up with Eco blowers and mowers for the season ahead. Tackling a project, they've got a surplus of quality lumber ready for all your building needs. And when the work's done, fire up the fun with their wide selection of grills, smokers, and griddles from Traeger, Weber, and Blackstone. Stop by Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby, your one-stop shop for spring projects, big and small.
Big savings are waiting at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Get a 25 Chevy Silverado 1500 with 0.9% APR for 60 months plus $3,500 trade-in cash. Or choose a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max, 0.9% APR or up to over $7,800 off if you own a GMC or Buick. And don't forget, military members get an extra $750 cash allowance. It's happening now at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Online at hurlchev.com.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland and let's get you covered. The insurance agency. Insurance the way it should be.
Convenience just got an upgrade. Farmers State Bank of Oakley is excited to announce the opening of our brand new ATM along Highway 40, right next to Sonic Drive-In. Whether you're grabbing a snack or on the go, you can quickly access your cash without the detour. It's banking made easy, right where you need it. Farmers State Bank of Oakley, member FDIC.
Case IH isn't just built by farmers, it's sold, supported, and serviced by them too. The men and women at your local Case IH dealerships understand what it takes to overcome the challenges of farming because they do it every day, just like you. That means they're the right people to help you find the equipment you need. Stop by and meet our farmers today or visit builtbyfarmers.com to learn more. Built by Farmers, Case IH. Stop into Colby Ag Center at 305 West Horton Avenue in Colby, Kansas today.
You ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4! It's time for the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
The amount of money getting thrown around to quarterbacks who haven't done diddly squat is amazing to me.
The High Plains only local sports talk show.
Knows what he's talking about.
Broadcasting live on Rocket 102.5 and streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and X.
Not this again.
Yes, this again.
Covering it all from the preps.
Fastball swing and a miss and a strikeout there for Case and Cedarstrom.
To the pros.
Mahomes keeps it on an RPO at the 5. Gets a lead block. He goes into the end zone near side. Touchdown, Kansas City.
The Blitz is presented by Pearl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank. along with the Insurance Agency, the Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
On the move again. Corbin skies it pretty deep, right center field. This has got some carry to it, and it's gone. Corbin Carroll's second home run tonight, and they've blown it open. It's 8-3.
Deep to left center field. Scott's to the track. Scott's at a room, a two-run homer. Bobby Witt Jr. opens the game with a blast. 2-0 Royals.
1-1 pitch is hit pretty well to center field. Going back, Doyle on the warning track, leaps up and grabs it, and that's the ball game. Hernandez got them excited, but the Rockies have won their first series of the year.
They've done it! I can't believe it, but they've actually done it. The Colorado Rockies have taken a series in the year of 2025. First time since August of 2024, the Rockies have won a series. Oh, my goodness. I know there'll be plenty of sarcastic texts coming in. Thank you, Jared. No, he's pumped up today about that. But for the first time since August of last year, snapping a horrific end of 22 consecutive series losses, the Colorado Rockies people have won a series. That's right. They have won a series. 3-2. They hold on to beat the Marlins. I can only imagine what was going through the guts of those Rockies fans that are still with them at this point in time. Seeing that ball hit at the bottom of the ninth with 2 gone, flying out towards center field, thinking, oh, good Lord. And luckily, Bretton Doyle, the Gold Glover, goes out there, grabs a tough catch, and the Rockies hold on for a 3-2 victory yesterday in Miami. Just the second time this year the Rockies have won back-to-back games. The last time they did it, they capped off a series with a win, capped off the end to finish the series avoiding a sweep, and then won game 1 of the next series. That's why they won back-to-back games and haven't won a series since August. But you think about that. I mean, that is just amazing. In this day of baseball and in professional sports, to not win a series in professional baseball and everyone's getting paid to do it, I mean, it's impressive. Once again, I go back to the comment I made yesterday. I mean, when you're bad, no one, it's kind of like, they're bad, we're not going to talk about them, who cares, but when you're really bad, that's when people start talking about you again, and that's where the Rockies are at this point in time. Now, once again, we'll see, can they sweep the Marlins today? Early first pitch time this morning at 10:10 Mountain Time. So here in about 3 hours from now, they'll have first pitch between the Marlins and the Rockies. We'll see if they can get a sweep of the Marlins, and we'll see if that happens, or if Miami's able to bounce back and get a win. I would kind of predict that. I guess that'd be my thought. But I remember looking back at the schedule. This was back a few weeks ago. We were talking when is there going to be a winnable game for the Rockies, or possibly a series win when you look at the teams that they were going to have to face. And, I said probably going to be at the 1st of June when they go to Miami. There's a chance there. And the thing is, you look ahead to this point in time, when's the next winnable series? I don't know if there is one until we get after the All-Star break. So I'm glad the Rockies got it done last night. I'm glad they were able to get that monkey off of their back, get their first series win of this season and their first one since August of last season. So I'm very thankful that the Rockies were able to get that done. Like I said, they've won 6-4 and 3-2. They take a series. They will not be shut out, at least in the first half. Because after that, I don't know. Maybe Washington coming up here. There's 4 games in Washington. I don't know. They're playing better. The White Sox, then I said they're probably the next winnable series. I take that back. The next winnable series maybe comes up around a month from now, July 4th through July 6th. The White Sox, the toilet bowl of Major League Baseball. The toilet bowl of Major League Baseball. The White Sox. And so anyway, Jared texts in F&B Bank text line 785-899-2222 goes, I danced last night. Did some dancing, did Jared? Well, I appreciate that. And Brian chimes in, FB Bank text line says, don't sell the team now. Yeah, don't. They've won a series. Don't sell the team now. No, that's not going to change, Brian. You don't have to worry about it. I don't think they're going to be selling the team. They're still making money hand over fist, left and right. I know you say that sarcastically, but and yes, Jared, you do have to celebrate the little victories, and that is true. The Rockies, there is a chance to celebrate it here with the Rockies getting a win last night and winning a series for the first time since August, and that ended a consecutive run of 22 series loss. So Rockies get the win. Other quick side before we get to segment one. Here on the Morning Blitz, which today we will be visiting with James Westling of ESPN and Big 12 Today, having a conversation with him. We'll talk to him about the spring meetings that happened down in Orlando with the Big 12 Conference. We'll be discussing all the news and notes that came out of that. We'll have a little bit of a chit-chat probably about tonight's Women's College World Series, which features a Big 12 team in Texas Tech. In Texas, it's an all Lone Star showdown tonight in the Women's College World Series. We'll get to all that with James Westling coming up here a little bit later on. And also in segment 3, a new head basketball coach in the area for junior college. Fort Hays Tech Northwest has a new women's head basketball coach. We'll get to that in Brit news that came out just this past weekend. We'll get to that here coming up in just a little bit as well. And we're also going to talk about the 5+1 college football playoff format. And the question I have is, will it help teams like K-State and KU have a better chance of getting into the college football playoff than the previous model? We will get to that coming up here in just a few moments. But before we do that, I do want to quickly highlight also in baseball last night, the Royals come from behind 10-7 win over the Cardinals. They were down they reached that 5-run deficit and came back to get the victory there over the Cards. It was a huge night for Bobby Witt Jr. Him and Nick Lofton each homered, and the Royals plated 6 runs in the 5th. Capped by a 2-run double by Vinny Pasquantino and an RBI single from Salvador Perez. It was not a great start for Michael Lorenzen, but the bullpen 5 1/3 scoreless, and Estevez comes in and locks down his 17th save to get game 1 of that I-70 series from St. Louis last night. Of course, everyone was wondering, what does prospect Jack Caglione bring to the lineup? Well, he went 0 for 5. But there's an asterisk, though, I think, on the 0 for 5. He did go 0 for 5. His first at bat, though, he drove the ball into deep right center field. I mean, he was probably about 10, 15 feet shy of hitting a home run in his first major league at bat. He showed the power there. And the stat that I saw that was the most ridiculous and amazing stat from Cags last night was that, yes, he did go 0 for 5, but 4 of his 5 hits were 95 miles per hour plus off the bat. So when he hit the ball, they were coming at 95 miles an hour or more off the bat. 4 of his 5 hits were. 2 of those 4 hits were at 112 and 113 miles per hour. So what he was doing in the minors, just absolutely hitting the baseball, at just an alarming rate coming off the bat, is still happening at the major league level. That's what we saw, at least in game 1. Yes, he didn't record a hit. He went 0 for 5, but he didn't have a strikeout. I mean, to me, that's a huge thing. If you've got all this power and can just absolutely rip the ball and you don't strike out, I mean, that's impressive. Not saying that he won't strike out at some point in time. He will, obviously. But, he just, as Andy said, he barreled up the ball. He just hit it right at people. So, like I said, I thought that is baseball at times. But I thought there's nothing wrong with it in any way, shape, or form. But he did go 0 for 5. But like I said, he was hitting the ball very well, and that's going to result in some big nights for him, some multi-hit nights for Jack Caglione. So, like I said, it wasn't the start that people were probably looking for, but I have a feeling we're not going to have to wait very long for him to make an impact with the bat in the lineup for Jack Caglione. So, anyway, let's roll on here on the Morning Blitz. Once again, glad you're with us. The F&B Bank text line already hot this morning. If you'd like to join into the conversation, you're welcome to do so at 785-899-2222. Appreciate you tuning in, no matter if you're listening, of course, on Goodland's Rocket 1025, nwksradio.net, or if you're chiming in the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream, appreciate you doing so. And good morning to all you out there. You can also comment, of course, on the show through social media as well. We can see those too, if you'd like to get your thoughts and comments in. But anyway, I want to get to the first segment. There's been a lot of stuff I've been kind of stashing away as it comes in through the sporting world news and kind of keeping it for later on when we kind of hit some slower days. And And I think today is I know today we'll probably talk about it more and more if we get more clarity on it. But there's been a lot of conversation during the SEC spring meetings, that is, talking about how to change the college football playoff model. And we all know that the model, it was, of course, a few years ago, it was 4 teams. It was all the playoff model was 4 teams and then they'd play. And then this last year, it expanded. And you had, 12 teams and you had your 4 highest, ranked conference champions that got a bye, which once again saw, Boise State get in there and a few other teams that maybe probably should have been gotten byes, didn't get those. And so that did not make coaches or fans or, television executives happy. So now they're looking at another way to possibly do this. They want to find a way to change up this again so that it plays more in the favor for everybody. The problem is there just really isn't a way to make it fair for everybody. There just really isn't at this point in time. But one of the things that's been thrown around, because the biggest discussion for a while was, well, the SEC and the Big Ten, the 2 power conferences in football and basketball, they are saying, well, we want guaranteed 4 spots in the playoffs. So if we're going to have 16 teams, we want to have at least 4 spots guaranteed to us. And that's the minimum, 4 at least. They'd like to see even more if they could, because they think they're the 2 best conferences. And for the most part, they probably are the 2 best and deepest conferences. Probably are. Based upon talent in the NFL draft and what you saw this year in the draft. They are probably that. But they're looking. They want to fill up at least half the field, if not more, of this 16-team playoff. Well, that's of course gotten other conferences, the Big 12 included, obviously, saying, well, that's not fair to us, not fair to the ACC, any of that stuff. And I would agree, that's not fair to them either. So Greg Sankey came out during these spring meetings talking about the coaches and stuff, and the SEC are interested in this 5+11 college football playoff model. And so you would have your 5 highest ranked your 5 conference champions automatically get in there. So I think you have your SEC champion, your Big Ten champion, your ACC champion, your Big 12 champion, and then you have of course, your group of 5 champion, whatever that highest ranked group of 5 champion. Those are your 5 there. And then you have 11 spots to fill. 11 spots to fill with anything else. And I don't know how people out there think about this whole idea or not. The question I pose when I think about this is, will this help? Will this help? Let's say, for example, Kansas and Kansas State. Will this format help them? Because I also saw something on GoPowerCat.com. They were talking about, does Kansas State ever have a chance at winning a national championship? And of course, K-State has come close a couple of times, but has never gotten that done. Really haven't had the chance to, or the opportunity to. They've gotten close, but haven't really had the opportunity to do that. And KU, it's been a pipe dream for a while now. But with Lance Leipold, coming into the fold and him being a phenomenal championship caliber coach that he's led teams to at other divisions, maybe it is more of a deal. And I don't know if this 5+11 format really helps teams like Kansas State and KU. Because if you think about this, the 5+11 format, yes, it does guarantee a Big 12 champion to be in the playoff. It does guarantee that. It absolutely does. It allows you to get it, but there's no guarantee you're going to get anybody else. There's no guarantee of that. The problem is that I find the biggest problem is that each and every year rankings are put out. And so we already have a ranking set to go off of before we've even seen a game. And that is going to be the hardest thing to overcome, because unless all of a sudden teams like the Big 12 and whatever conference, and the SEC is always going to be king, more than likely, and Big Ten is probably going to be, I don't say maybe not ever, but I'm talking from the small ACC and the Big 10, or ACC and Big 12, excuse me. The hardest thing for them is going to be, well, how can we go about and I'm trying to lose my thought there. I was losing my thought there for a second, but the biggest question could be, how can we go about it and make the field more even? Because every single season, the SEC starts at the top of the college football realm. They're the best conference. They're the deepest conference. They have the best teams. And every year that is the deal. And the rankings show that. Once again, the FPI, which is the Football Power Index released by ESPN yesterday, it came out of the top 10 teams, 5 of them were from the SEC, half of the field. There was a couple Big Ten teams, or 3 Big Ten teams, and then 2 SEC teams. There was not a Big 12 or ACC teams. I don't think there was not a Big 12 team in there. And so there was not that much in there. And so you're already starting, let's just say for fun, that is the first rankings that come out in the future. I'm not saying that is what's going to be, but let's just say for fun it is. Let's just say that's the rankings that come out before the season starts here in August. Guess what? You're already behind the 8 ball. You're already behind the 8 ball because without even playing a game or seeing any of these teams play, we've already assumed that the SEC has 5 of the best teams in the top 10. We've already assumed that. This is why, once again, I go back and I've always been on this horse of, I don't think we need to do any sort of rankings until probably after the 3rd or 4th week. Don't need to have any rankings. Go out there and play. Let's watch and see who looks dominant. Now, I know some teams are going to look really dominant because they don't play anybody in the first 3 or 4 games. Some teams may not look very good because they are going to face a challenging schedule. But here's the thing. When you start with already a humongous lead in this race, in the case of the SEC, and you don't play anybody, and that's the thing going forward that, many of the power conference, the Big Ten, the SEC are saying, well, why would we want to play anybody like the Big 12 or the ACC and hurt our look of our league? And we can just play each other for 8-9 games and schedule a bunch of powder puffs and blow them out of the water, and we'll be fine. Because there's no way to judge how good they are against us if we don't play them. It's already happening in SEC baseball. I mean, you look at the Southeastern Conference, they had, of the 14 teams that were in regional play, there's only 3 left. But guess what? It didn't really matter when they were setting out the bracket because they thought, well, the SEC is the best. And why is the SEC the best? Well, because they play in the toughest conference. It's assumed that from the beginning. And it is a tough conference. I'm not saying it's not, but they're already saying, well, we're in this tough position, and we're already in the position of being in the catbird seat. Don't play anybody too crazy outside of conference play. Don't go face and just play nobody on these midweek series, and we'll be fine. We'll and it doesn't matter. We might have a record of, we might have a 500 record of conference play, but it's still better than a team from the Big 12 that might have a really good record, though. I mean, that's the problem. We're setting benchmarks before we even know. And in today's college athletics realm, where once again, every year it's a new team, doesn't matter, basketball, football, baseball, because of the portal and all that stuff, you don't know what you're getting. And so back to the 5+11, does it help Kansas and Kansas State? I don't know. It really, to me, it doesn't. It will not impact them very much because they're still going to have an unbelievable season. If you're in the ACC, if you're in the Big 12, you're going to have to either have one unbelievable season or stack together multiple really, really good seasons. You're going to have to show. That's the thing about when you aren't at the top to start. You have to show that you are really, really, you're good for a consistent amount of time to continue to build yourself up to where they consistently look at you. Well, they were good last year and the year before that. We ought to move them up into the spot here before the season starts. You have to start doing that. You have to start building equity in order to put yourself in position to possibly be in the college football playoff all the time, unless you're just going to win the conference every single year. And I think it's going to be hard to win the Big 12 conference every single year consistently, at least for the time being, because like we saw last year, I think we have a lot of good teams in the Big 12, and they're all pretty evenly matched. And when that happens, it's going to result in a lot of records that are, 8-4s, 7-5s. And that's not going to be good enough to get in the college football playoff with the schedule that you're playing, more than likely. And you're going to need, you really need like K-State to take on, other big power conference schools. Like you need K-State to take on Missouri, for example, like they have in the past. And they got to beat Missouri, and then they got to have Missouri go over in the SEC and have a really, really good season in order to help them out as well. There's lots of things that need to happen. for this to be better, for the 5+11 format to help Kansas State. I know on the surface, it's like, well, yeah, that's going to help us. There's more spots. That means more things. Yes, that's true. But you can't sit here and tell me that you think that those 11 spots that Kansas and Kansas State is going to get in over, a 3-loss SEC team or a 3-loss Big Ten team. They're not going to let that happen. They're not going to let that happen. Like I said, you're going to have an unbelievable season. You're going to have almost an unbeaten season, a 2-loss season to pretty much put yourself in a spot like that. So I don't know if it really helps Kansas State and KU, making it easier for them to get into the playoff. I think it's going to be just as hard. Yes, there are more spots, so it helps a little bit, but you're still going to have a really, really good season in order to be able to get into the college football playoff going forward. And I'm okay. Like, I was fine with the format that they had to an extent. I think maybe reseeding the 12 like they're going to do this year, I think is fine. They're going to continue to expand and get more games so that people want to tune in to watch. And don't worry, we'll watch them. But I know the 5+11 format, though, as much on the surface as it looks like it's going to help other teams get a chance to get in there, really not. Because I think you're probably still going to see, I was looking this up here. If I pulled up the college football rankings from last year, let's just say at the end of the season rankings, and you looked at those, and if you were to go down the list and find a Big 12 team, so Arizona State would have been in the playoff, obviously. And the next Big 12 team, SMU, would have been in there. BYU and Iowa State, 4 teams, which honestly, 4 out of the 16 would be great. That'd be awesome. But that also included bowl games. If I let's go back just 1 week. Let's go to week 16. Show me week 16 rankings. So you scroll through here and you look through the week 16 rankings. SMU is 10, Arizona State is 12, and BYU 17. So 2 teams in the Big 12. 2. SMU's not even the Big 12. They're in the ACC. What am I thinking, Ross? Dummy. Arizona State is the only team in the Big 12. Yes, BYU is 17. So even if you go back to the week before the college football, the week right after the college football playoff, if you go back and look at it, there was 1 Big 12 spot. If they were to do this 5+11, that meant that your Big 12 champion, who was Arizona State, they are there at number 12. And that's the only Big 12 team in the top 16. The only one. The only one. The ACC has Clemson and SMU. Boise State is your representative of the non-Power 5 conferences. Everybody else is in the Big 10 or the SEC. And I would almost bet that it would look the same if we were doing the 5+11 format that year. Almost look the same. And so once again, yes, there are more spots to get in, but to me, those spots are going to get filled by more of the Big 10 and the SEC and not the Big 12. And I think that will make it very, very difficult. Very, very difficult to do so. Let's see here. F&B Bank text line. This is from Michael, of course, our big KU fan. Jalen Daniels needs to ball out this year. Be sweet to see KU in the mix. Look, like I said, think about a couple years ago. I mean, Kansas had a really great season. I still don't even know if that, what was it, 9-3, Michael? Was that what it was that year that they were really good a couple years ago? I mean, that was, even if you did that, I still don't, you're not going to be in this mix. Barely, if you are. Because guess what? A 9-3 Bama team is going to get way more love than a 9-3 Kansas team. Simple as that. Very, very challenging. Like I said, this 5+11 format would be great. It's great in theory, but I just don't think that it's really going to help unless you are in the Big 12 or Big 10 or the SEC. It's just not going to help you because those spots are going to get taken up by teams that might have finished, 5 and 6 in their league standings in the Big 12, in the Big 10 and the SEC. And even the team that finished number 2 or 3 in the Big 12 will be left out looking in. And that's the sad part. But that's the way we're going. That's the way it looks like. It's to be going. We'll see. Yeah, Jared goes, well, maybe the top two teams of the Big 12. I said yes, maybe, big time maybe. So anyway, I don't know. This 5+11 format, it's like I said, on the surface, it looks great. You're like, great, more spots for everybody. Not really. It's not great for the Big 12. It's not great for the ACC because guess what? When the season begins, the SEC and the Big 10 are going to dominate the top 25 in spots. And because they already have a start there, it's hard to get up there. I know Kansas State, I think, was number 20 on the FPI rankings. So, but it's going to be hard to crack that. And there's no room for error. If you're KU and K-State, you have to be perfect. You pretty much have to have one loss or less to put yourself in position to be in that spot. There is going to be no room for error. Whereas other conferences are going to have 2, maybe 3 losses, and that's going to be good enough for them to stay in the playoff race. Well, if you have 1 or more losses, actually 2 or more losses, you're not going to be in the playoff if for example, KU or K-State in the Big 12. It's not fair, but that's the way it's looking. All right, we got to get to break. We'll come back. We're going to be joined by James Westling. He'll give us more of his thoughts on the college football playoff 5+11 model and all that stuff next. You're listening to the Morning Blitz here on a Wednesday.
Big savings are waiting at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Get a 25 Chevy Silverado 1500 with 0.9% APR for 60 months plus $3,500 trade-in cash. Or choose a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max, 0.9% APR or up to over $7,800 off if you own a GMC or Buick. And don't forget, military members get an extra $750 cash allowance. It's happening now at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Online at hurlchev.com.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning. This is Tom Saluda with the Anderson Trade Group with your overnight market report on June 4th. July corn is up 5 1/4 at 4.44. September corn up 5 at 4.28, and D's corn up 5 at 4.43. July soybeans are up 6 1/2 at 10.47. August up 6 at 10.40, and 7th soybeans up 5 at 10.17 1/2. Kansas City hard red winter wheat. July is up 1 at 5.38. September wheat up 1 at 5.51, and D's up 1 at 5.73. Dow Jones is currently down 35 points at 42,563. S&P is unchanged at 59.79. NASDAQ is down 8 points at 21,698. Gold is slightly up at 33.81. And crude oil is down 37 points at 63 a barrel. If you're out in the Colorado area and have any grain to market or risk management questions, please call John Hankey or John Stiles at 970-744-4484, or you can call the Overland Park office, myself, Tom Saludo, Jared Law, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000. Thank you.
They say seeing is believing, and nothing catches the eye like the 9.5 bushel per acre yield advantage of Revitec fungicide over other fungicides. But don't just take our word for it. See it for yourself. Run a comparison of Revitec fungicide. Enter the Real Results Yield Challenge and experience the difference it makes in your fields. And when you share your experience with us, you'll get a chance to win a 2-year lease on a new truck. Sign up at yieldchallenge.basf.us. No purchase necessary. See official rules for details. Always read and follow label directions.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, and cleaner American fuel. This message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Farmers and ranchers, are you looking to sell your equipment at auction for 0 fees and 0 commissions? Well, then you need to check out Hayden Outdoors' new online equipment auction platform. You can list your equipment in our monthly online auctions using our easy-to-use platform, and you don't pay any fees or commissions. Visit HaydenOutdoors.com to learn more. That's HaydenOutdoors.com.
The region's only local sports talk.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
The Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
All right, as we continue on here, going to be a partly cloudy day. Temperatures in the mid-60s. Nice morning, though, I think, to start things off. Once again, thankful for that great rain. Man, I saw anywhere from, looking at the rainfall reports once again from Raleigh, anywhere from just under around a half an inch all the way up to, almost 280 in some spots, about an inch and a half in town in some places. So great. And there's more chances of rain coming up here later this week. So keep that in mind as well. Also, don't forget this weekend, it is the Highway 24 garage sales going on as well. So if you like garage selling, I know our producer, Joel, he loves a good garage sale. So I know he'll be out checking that stuff out here this weekend. All right. We got about 20 minutes left to go in the program, and let's get to our guests of the day. James Westling joining us.
Pleased to be joined on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware hotline now by our guest of the day. That would be James Westling, of course, co-host of Big 12 Today, and of course covers multiple sports for ESPN. James, how's things going?
Man, it's good. It's this is supposed to be the slow time of year, but with Texas Tech softball moving on into the Women's College World Series Finals against Texas, they took down Oklahoma last night. And the Big 12 spring meetings that just took place. We were in Orlando for Big 12 radio last week. A lot coming out from the football and basketball meetings that they had. And then obviously all this talk with the college football playoff and the House settlement, and all the football coaches and athletic directors were there. So I'm still waiting for that vacation. It's not arrived yet.
You may have to wait a few more weeks. Like you said, plenty of things to discuss. And I want to get to most of those topics actually with you. So I want to start off first and foremost with the spring meetings that happened down this past week. What were some of the biggest takeaways that really stood out to you and the guys there as you covered those meetings last week?
Yeah, there were a couple things. I think the biggest is the fact that the Big 12 is united in their support of a 5-11 college football playoff model. And what that means is 5 automatic bids to the 4 conference champions from the power conferences, and then a 5th bid going to the highest ranked conference champion from the group of 5, and then 11 at-large bids. There's been a lot of push from the SEC and the Big Ten to go to a 4-4-2-2-1 model, which would mean 4 automatic bids for SEC and Big Ten schools. And essentially the Big 12 is rolling the dice on, okay, do we take these 2 automatic bids that were being offered for the Big 12 every year, or do we believe that we can get more than 1 additional at-large team in the college football playoff as it expands to 16 teams in 2026? And I think the thought process is that the Big 12 is they want to be in a position where they can bet on themselves. Are we a league that consistently can have 2 or 3 teams in the conversation for an at-large bid? And I think that, I see pros and cons to both sides of it. I think there are some years, like last year, where the Big 12 would have not had an additional at-large bid. It would have been Arizona State, and the highest-ranked team outside of the Sun Devils was BYU at number 17, so they wouldn't have been in even with this 5-11 model. But moving forward, this is a league that, it's full of parity, but there's going to be consistent schools at the top. The league is just super new. Like when you lose Texas and Oklahoma, you're not going to have an immediate school or 2 schools fill that void. It's just too large. So I think with time, the Big 12 is going to have consistent winners, and I think this is going to play out favorably for the conference. And the other thing, when it comes to men's and women's basketball, the league is trimming their conference slate from 20 games to 18. So what that means is you're only going to have 3 opponents on your schedule that you'll play twice, and you'll play everybody else once. And it'll be interesting to see how the league dictates who those teams are. Do they try to keep the rivalries intact with KU and K-State and Arizona State and Arizona, and the Holy War with BYU and Utah? We'll find out, come this fall. But, I think that's something that Bill Self was very outspoken about. He was in favor of trimming the schedule down because teams were just really tired. at the end of the year. And it was great to see Houston make their run. But everybody else, for the most part, they were just riddled with injuries and battered down and beaten down. And I think that's another good move for the Big 12 to trim the schedule down just a little bit and give teams some built-in buys in the season.
James Wetzeling is our guest from Big 12 today and also ESPN. You hit on a lot of things there. I want to go back to the college football playoff. I mean, but every team, every conference is trying to position themselves to get the most teams possible into the postseason. The 5-11 model is great, and it does present opportunities, but it's just like anything else. The SEC, first and foremost, is probably going to fill a majority of those spots, don't you think? Even in the 5-11, that's why they're probably for it, because they know they're going to fill it, because the media and everyone else is going to give them more of the benefit of the doubt than the Big 12, don't you think?
Right, and that's the biggest thing is how do we reshape the narrative? And the first step is winning on the field. And Big 12 coaches, they continue to kind of hammer that home and say, we've got to be better on the field. And the bottom line is the Big 12 went 5-8 last year in the non-conference against those other power conferences. So this is a huge year for the league in terms of that. Like, the league has to be better in the non-conference. And then another thing that I think hurt the league is last year, Utah and Oklahoma State were the two highest ranked preseason teams, and they finished towards the bottom of the league. That can't happen. That would be the equivalent of a Texas or an Alabama in the SEC going 5-7 or 3-9. Like, it just doesn't happen. So you've got to have more consistency at the top. And I think over time we'll see that. I see Kansas State. I see Arizona State. I think Utah bounces back this year. I see Iowa State returning a lot of players from last year. I see TCU winning 9 games and having a lot of depth back. I see Texas Tech. They're spending more money on their roster than anybody else in the nation when it comes to off-season additions. So they're up there with a lot of the SEC schools in terms of resources and how much they're willing to spend. So we just need time. But it starts with winning on the field. And that was a huge blow to the league last year, going 5-8 those non-conference games, because it didn't give the league a leg to stand on. And it hurt BYU when it came to the college football playoff rankings. That's why their strength of schedule was what it was. For the Big 12 to have a better strength of schedule, like, all that's determined by what you do in the non-conference, because you get into league play and you're all playing each other. So the Big 12 needs to beat these SEC schools. Like, the TCU needs to beat North Carolina from the ACC. Baylor needs to beat Auburn. Cincinnati needs to compete and maybe beat Nebraska. Like, the Big 12's got to go 9-5 or 10-4 this year in their 14 non-conference games. It just has to happen.
At the same time, though, James, let's just say, for example, you talk about going 5-8, and you were talking about also about, Oklahoma, if Alabama and those other big schools in the SEC went 3-something, would the narrative just be, well, the SEC is so strong? And the Big 12, if they do that, well, the Big 12 is bad. That's why it is. I mean, the narrative is only going to change if it happens for multiple years, not for just 1 or 2, unfortunately, right?
No, and I agree with that. It needs to be, it needs to be over time, the Big 12 competing against these other conferences. I do think there's something to say about brands within a conference. Like, if Vanderbilt goes 9-3, they're not sniffing the college football playoffs. If South Carolina goes 9-3, they're not sniffing the college football playoff. But if Alabama does or Georgia does, like, they're in. I still think there's something to be said about that. And I do think that, to your point, it's going to need to be multiple seasons over time. And then the other thing, just to add another layer onto this, let's say Baylor does beat Auburn. Okay, well, the Big 12 needs Auburn to compete in the SEC and go 8-4 or 9-3, 7-5 at worst. You can't be beating teams like Mississippi State, because then it doesn't give you a leg to stand on. The Big 12 needs to be beating high-level Power 4 conference opponents year in and year out, and then consistency at the top. Like, the worst thing for the Big 12 this year would be Arizona State to go 5-7 and just completely tank after winning a Big 12 championship. The Big 12 needs Arizona State at the top. The Big 12 needs Texas Tech at the top, because those are the schools grabbing the offseason headlines. Kansas State having a good year would be good for the Big 12. Like, there's got to be some consistent programs at the top. And then the next step is you got to win a college football playoff game. Like, that's how you flip the narrative. And if Arizona State beats Texas last year, that is a major step forward. The fact that they didn't, is lost on everybody. So I think that, winning games in the non-conference and then winning games in the college football playoff is how you get this thing done.
James Wessling, our guest here on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware Hotline. Just one more point of this, because this conversation I could go on for probably 10 hours on. I probably could. But the biggest thing to me is it's so hard to get, and I think it's going to be harder in the future to get these games scheduled, because SEC and probably the Big Ten don't want to play other power conference foes because they play a tough enough schedule as it is already. And they're not looking, and they're just trying to kind of keep their own self. And if the narrative is good about the conference, they don't play anybody else. It's hard for the Big 12 to gain that advantage. You get what I'm saying there?
I do, absolutely. And the new college football playoff, whatever it looks like, it's a short-term Band-Aid fix. It's just for a couple of years. Like, they're not talking long-term. Long-term, we're talking about television deals. We're talking about, does the SEC and the Big Ten step away from the NCAA with the new House settlement? They're not going to want to be handcuffed to any $20 million a year athletic budget. The NCAA is putting together a committee that will be regulating NIL deals and really keeping tabs on that. And the SEC might say, to heck with it, and do their own thing with the Big Ten. And if that happens, then we've got a completely different landscape. And we're talking about super leagues where college athletics are now professional sports. And I hate to say it, because I love college sports, but I lean towards that's the direction we're headed. Like, I thought these super leagues were a joke. I never thought they'd come to fruition. But now with the House settlement and the reaction from it, it would not surprise me if that's the future of college sports, is basically it's not college sports anymore. It's professional sports, because I think we have bridged the gap between college sports and what it used to be and professional sports so rapidly in such a small window. And I don't see it slowing down. That's the biggest hurdle. Yeah, like the Big 12 could go get a scheduling alliance with the ACC and play ACC schools, and sure, that's all fine and dandy. But then you're talking about two completely separate conferences when it comes to call. Huge divide between the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the ACC. And at that point, I think everybody just splits off into this super league, and that's the end of college sports as we know it.
Yeah, hopefully that's not the case. We're visiting with James Wessling, who joins us, of course, on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware Hotline. James, you had mentioned that, Bill Self, talked about shortening up the schedule there a little bit, and I get why they did it. I totally get why they did it, to position themselves to have better records to make in the NCAA tournament. But Bill Self also made a comment about talking about expanding the tournament. He's all for that. Your thoughts on his thought of saying he'd be okay expanding the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, and that's another thing that the Big 12 seems united on, is tournament expansion. Personally, I don't like it. Like, I liked it at 64. I think if we expand the tournament, there's two different paths that this could take. Number one, the tournament expands, and you've got essentially 16 teams playing a play-in game, which, sure, that's great for the teams that would have been left out otherwise, but also it takes teams that would have had essentially a bye, teams that are on that 6, 7, or 8 seed line that now have to play a play-in game. So you're adding an additional game to a lot of teams' schedule there. But the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, the two paths that I noted is, one, does this mean more mid-majors get in? Like Indiana State is the example that the NCAA continues to use. They had a top 30 RPI. They should have been in the field. They got snubbed. They went on to win the NIT. This was 2 years ago. Are we talking about Indiana State getting in the field, or are we talking about the 14th or the 15th or the 16th best team in the Big 10 or the SEC or even the Big 12? And that I'm not super excited about. I think if we're going to expand, there needs to be a set number of at-larges that go to mid-majors. Teams that have really good seasons and get upset in their conference tournament, they need to be in the NCAA tournament if we are truly going to expand for the greater good of the sport and the tournament itself. Because I think the tournament has lost a lot of its kind of nostalgia with the Cinderellas and the mid-majors. Like, they haven't been there the last 2 years. your biggest sleeper team the last 2 years was an 11 seed from the ACC, NC State. Like, that's not something to get excited about. And I don't think the nation gets behind that like they would a Butler or a George Mason or some of these Cinderellas of the past.
James Westling of ESPN, as well as Big 12 Today, joining us here on the Hoover Lumber Hardware Hotline. One more before we let you go. You mentioned it right off the bat with our conversation. Texas Tech in the Big 12, from the Big 12, taking on former Big 12 foe Texas in the Women's College World Series for a 3-game series. I don't know about you, but the biggest thing that stands out to me about Texas Tech making it to the national championship game is that it's proven that if you have enough money, you can buy yourself at least a championship game experience.
Absolutely. I mean, Nyjah Kennedy's the real deal. She is phenomenal, and Texas Tech paid her over $1 million to bring her in, but it's not just her. And I think maybe what's gotten lost a little bit in Texas Tech's rise is that they brought in a bunch of talented freshmen, additional transfers that came with their new head coach, who's in his first year, Jerry Glasgow, and had the #1 recruiting class in the country 3 years ago at Louisiana. From Lafayette, Louisiana, he got the #1 class in the country, all high school kids. It's been an incredible story. Oklahoma's won 4 straight national championships. Like, that's an unparalleled dynasty. And for Texas Tech to take them down when they were up 2-0 going into the final inning, and on the final out of the frame, Oklahoma cranks a 2-run homer to tie it. Bottom of the 7th, Texas Tech's offense powers through with a couple of singles and a double. They walk it off in thrilling fashion. I think softball is one of the most underrated, just exhilarating sports that college sports has to offer. And the Texas Tech experiment with the pay-to-play, it worked for Kennedy. I mean, this is proof in the pudding. The next question will be, does it work for football? Because Texas Tech went out and they bought the #1 transfer portal in the nation, portal class in the nation. And if it all comes together, then I do think we can sit here and we can say, like, hey, you can basically go out in free agency and build a roster and win right away. But one player in softball can make that much of a difference, because this pitcher for Texas Tech is one of the best pitchers of all time in the sport at the collegiate level.
It's nuts. I'm interested to see how it all pans out. He is James Westling, once again, of ESPN and Big 12 Today on TuneIn. James, it's always great to catch up, my friend. I could go for a whole hour with you, but I'll let you go, and we'll catch up soon.
Well, let's do it. Little podcast style sometime.
Ooh, I'd love that. That'd be great. Thanks, James.
Okay. Thanks, Ross.
Once again, great stuff there with James Westling on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware Hotline. We'll get to our final break, come back, and wrap the show with news of a new head basketball coach for Fort Hays Tech Northwest. That's next here on The Blitz.
If you're looking for a more convenient way to access your funds and view your account, then sign up today for Internet Banking. Internet Banking allows you to view your accounts from your computer or even your phone. You can easily transfer between your accounts, view which checks have cleared, send payments through our bill pay feature, and even deposit your checks by taking a picture of them. Internet banking will make your banking experience easy. If you'd like to sign up for Internet Banking, come see me, Victoria Ratcliffe, today at 202 East 11th Street in Goodland, FNB Bank, member FDIC.
Your Shawnee County Hospital in St. Francis is improving health with access to quality care. Whether you're looking for primary care, wound care, physical therapy, cardiologist, or anything in between, Shawnee County Hospital can help. For info, visit their Facebook page or call 785-332-2104 or visit them at Shawnee-County-Hospital.com. The Shawnee County Hospital, located on 210 West Street in St. Francis.
Spring is in full swing at Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware. Get your lawn and garden looking their best with Ultimate Fertilizer and gear up with Eco blowers and mowers for the season ahead. Tackling a project, they've got a surplus of quality lumber ready for all your building needs. And when the work's done, fire up the fun with their wide selection of grills, smokers, and griddles from Traeger, Weber, and Blackstone. Stop by Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby, your one-stop shop for spring projects, big and small.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
Kickstart your day with the latest in sports.
Go Sports!
You're listening to the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
All right, putting a bow on today's show. Thanks again to James Westling for joining the program. Thanks to you for listening and chiming in, of course, on the FNB Bank text line. News came out this past weekend that 42nd Northwest has hired a new basketball coach for their women's program. Jordan Klein will be taking over the Tech Tiger ladies here coming up in the 25-26 season. He was an assistant at University of Arkansas Fort Smith last year. He helped develop the MIAA Freshman of the Year and a trustee in his lone season. Big thing is the Lions went, they were 18-11, last year. Their first winning season in 7+ years, I should take that back. So a very successful helping out there. But once again, as an assistant coach, as you would expect. So he's not been a head coach yet, at least at the collegiate level. He is also was an assistant for a men's basketball program at Cornell College during the 23-24 season. So the thing that stands out to me, he has worked his way up the ladder very, very quickly. And a lot of people have said that about him, how quickly he has worked his way up. And I know Rory Kling, athletic director for Fort Hays Tech Northwest, said he's been very impressed with his drive to go out there and to make connections. And he's been very, very impressed with that. I think they called it his very ambitious in Jordan Klein. So welcome to Northwest Kansas, Coach Klein. Look forward to visiting with you here as we get closer and closer to the season.
High drive, deep left, grand slam! And Matt lifts his ball high and deep to right. How about a walk-off three? Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on the New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes flings it. It's there! Hardman! Jackpot! Kansas City!
All right, wrapping it up here on the walk-off. A big night tonight. Last night, slower night. You know, of course, you could watch the Royals or the Rockies, and they both got wins, and that was great. But sports last night, besides baseball, it was kind of like the dog days of summer. Not a whole lot on there unless you love the WNBA. No disrespect to the ladies. Tonight, though, a little bit better. You got the Women's College World Series, Game 1 in the best of 3. The Lone Star State Showdown between Texas Tech and Texas. Fascinating to see if Nigel Kennedy, who, of course, James brought up there just a little bit ago, if she can help lead Texas Tech to a national championship. Can you buy yourself a national title? We're one step away from seeing if that's true. And also, don't forget tonight, of course, Lord Stanley's Cup is on the line in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. It's a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup Final, the Oilers and the Panthers. We'll have to see how that all ends up coming together there. But Connor McDavid trying to be the Conn Smythe winner, and we'll see if he can lead his Oilers and get them their first cup since 1990. Could Canada get their first cup in that long? It's been a long time, pretty much since I was born, that Canada, which hockey's kind of their national sport, that they've won a Stanley Cup. We'll see if they can get it done. Panthers, by the way, looking to become the first team over 45 years to beat the same opponent in back-to-back Cup finals. So a lot of interesting storylines, but Lord Stanley's Cup and the Stanley Cup Final on display tonight. Edmonton and Florida, and of course the Women's College World Series Game 1. Great night of sports ahead. We'll be back again tomorrow for a Thursday edition Morning Blitz. Hope you join us. Have a good one.
Classic rock plays here. This is Rocket 102.5.